has changed. So we made it possible even for a dependent, divorced or separated daughter to claim the family pension, and all the proof that was required was that she simply files a writ of her divorce and we then trust her to be a claimant. I am medically also feeling very gratified that we could also bring in, as Chanaji mentioned, maternity leave for stillbirths. हम ये भूल जाते थे बच्चे के पैदा होने की छुट्टी दी, जो बच्चा पैदा नहीं हुआ उसकी भी छुट्टी कहाँ गई? Because the woman has to undergo the same physiological and biological phenomena. The uterus involution, as we have been taught in the class of medicine, takes about 12 weeks to return back to its proper size and physiology. And so for her, the child may not have survived, but she has to go through the same challenge for the first 3 months or so. And therefore, we also did away with that. We brought the other category also into this. Then, fourthly, some of the governance reforms had a great innovation angle to that, both technology-wise, also innovation in thinking. Capacity Building Commission is, of course, one, which came directly from the Honorable Prime Minister. For the first time, we deviated from the status quo approach. We have hired most of those members from outside, most of them from the private sector, so that they could add the flavor of private sector to our governance. If that was so, as I said in the beginning, we would have broken this hierarchy of waiting for the operator to get the other person on the call, which never happens. In the private sector, you even call the other person or your senior by his initials, and that's how the work is got done. So and I told the chairman of the CBC, I said, you have to add your flavor to our working instead of getting infected by our working. Because if you also adopt our style, then we would have defeated the purpose for which we brought. And I'm glad that they have added quite a value to all these programs, including the Karma Yogi, which was being mentioned. And Karma Yogi, of course, is another great innovation. You prepare the official for the responsibility that he or she is going to take over. Otherwise, what would happen in the case of an IAS officer? Suddenly you post him as the health secretary. Now he has been taught, rightly so, to govern over the department where he is placed. Sarkar ka Iqbal, he has to run the writ of the government. But how does he do that? He unconsciously tries to pretend that he can write a better prescription than a doctor, which actually doesn't happen. But through this Karma Yogi, he will have the confidence to do so. He would know what the department is all about. Tomorrow he gets posted to agriculture. He doesn't have to pretend to be an agriculturist. He would have prepared himself. So this is a real time using technology with an innovative idea. Rozgar Mela, she is mentioned. Then CP Gram is again an innovation using the latest technology, and again a success story, as I said about DLC, Digital Life CP Gram has also become a global success story. We have now delegations from Maldives, Nepal, Myanmar, all other places coming here to emulate. When this government came in 2014, as was being mentioned in one of the slides presented by Mr. Srinivas, the total number of complaints or grievances that we got every year was just about 2 lakh. Many of these states had a grievance website, but even the officers didn't visit it. As a result, people stopped. Today, we have more than 26 lakhs. And when we touched 10 lakh, we were pleased to announce this to the media, and one of the smart friends asked me कि इसका मतलब आपके खिलाफ शिकायतें बढ़ गई? तो then I said कि इस बात का जवाब बाबा गालिब 150 साल पहले दे गए थे कि जब तवक्को ही उठ गई गालिब क्यों किसी का गिला करे कोई. You lodge a complaint where you are sure you will get a prompt time-bound answer. We followed a timeline. In fact, in the beginning days, I myself used to sit on the Friday evening, make random calls to the grievance holders. तो कई बार तो कहते थे कि साहब ये है भी मंत्री के नहीं. Then they would go to the website to check. They said we never had this experience. So we have worked hard to now achieve almost 95-96% disposal every week. And that's how the people's expectation has gone up. And there also we have moved to the next level of innovation. When I told Mr. Srinivas that our disposal is 100%, but the complainants sometimes do not feel satisfied, do not appear to be satisfied. In Europe, you started talking of something like happiness index. So I'm glad only 1 year back we introduced a human test. So after the online disposal, a human being calls up every complainant. It's kind of a counseling session or conversation that he or she has. Prevention of unfair means, of course, is another, of course, which I already mentioned. Anubhav was another innovative initiative. Each retiring officer in the last 6 months before superannuation to record his experience or her experience. The benefit would be twofold. A, that he would be happy to see his name on the website sometime. He would, because now even your kith and kin and your family may not have time to, or interest to see what you've been doing or what you've been writing. So at least he could read to himself. Secondly, it could be a good feedback for us. In the very first year when we did that, we had a lady officer writing that all her life she had dedicated herself to the cause of tourism. She was so much passionate about it. She wanted to upgrade her skills. Finally, she succeeded in getting a permission to go abroad and do some kind of a scholarship. When she came back, she found herself transferred out of tourism into some other department. And that was common malaise happening in the government. And she says that she kept trying to get back to the tourism department. Finally, when she succeeded, she had only 6 months left for superannuation. So all these feedbacks also. So that's why I'm glad on my suggestion, Secretary RPG agreed we started creating manuals so that this will be a reference material for further reforms in governance. Assistant Secretary, as was being mentioned by Rachna ji, again an innovative reform before going over to a sub-district or a district and being placed as SDM, you have a flavor of the central government. And it also is a great leveler for the officer. Otherwise, straight away when you go to a small mofussil town and become an SDM, you have 4 attendants for your 4 limbs. And you get, confused what you have become. So here they have a feel of rubbing shoulders with all. PM Excellence Award, earlier on what would happen? You would use mostly the profile of the officer. So जब ये अवार्ड करते थे तो पता है यार पंजाब को बड़े साल से कुछ नहीं मिला, तो फिर शिवराज जी कहते हैं पंजाब का फिर किसको देते हैं, कोई डीएम ढूंढो, अच्छा उसका भी हो गया, उसका भी हो गया, चलो उसका नहीं हुआ. So it was happening more by exclusion and default rather than merit. So we made it wide based on the flagship programs. So the district would get the award, and of course the recipient would be the concerned DM. And the result is that we are now getting nearly 99% of participation entries, and each one of them, vying with each other. So it became a kind of a good competitive federalism exercise. Same also seen in the aspiration district. And the other innovation, which also deserves to be complimented ARPG for, is the Swachhata campaign, which has earned how much now total? 3,000 crore by just because, and that has also led to the change in our work culture. Earlier on, if my computer screen went off, the attendant would be very quick to oblige to replace it, and we forgot where this was thrown. So gathered all the junk. कहीं माउस है तो स्क्रीन नहीं है, स्क्रीन है तो माउस है तो राइटिंग पैड नहीं है, तो सारा जब निकाल करके जंक दिया, तो we have succeeded in earning 3,000 crore just in about 4 campaigns and deposited in this state. And this is also, as I always say, some of these governance reforms are not only confined to governance, they have a huge socio-economic ramifications. In fact, when we did this campaign for the first year, and that year also we earned about 6,000 crore. So we had many of the lady officers coming and asking us, where did we find the place to actually dispose of? So I said there is some duplicate market which Mr. Srinivas only knows about. Because she said हमारे तो बच्चों ने इतने मोबाइल फेंके हुए हैं पीछे, हमें तो पता ही नहीं था इसके भी पैसे मिलते हैं. So cleanliness with also adding value. And therefore I think to sum up, all these reforms have had a very wide ramification, which is also, I'm glad, given quite a visibility to both these departments. The Department of DOPT, which, as was being mentioned by the officers, the earlier generation was known as the Department of Prosecution and Torture, is no longer so. And the Department of Administrative Reforms is actually introducing administrative reforms which are being emulated by other departments, other ministries, also the state government. The state governments coming forward and asking them to place them online. And that's the reason during COVID we did not waste even a single man day of work. So thank you very much, because we'll talk and proceed.
Thank you, sir. Now floor is open for questions. So I'll start with 273. 273.
सर, आई एम विजेता सिंह फ्रॉम द हिंदू। सर, अभी आपने देखा होगा पीछे काफ़ी कंप्लेंट्स आई थी ऑन सोशल मीडिया, एंड DOPT ऑल्सो इनिशिएटेड इंक्वायरीज अगेंस्ट पीपल हु हैव बीन गिविंग फॉर्ज से फॉल्टी सर्टिफिकेट्स, इनकम सर्टिफिकेट्स, एंड स्पेशली EWS कैटेगरी में और पर्सनस विथ बेंचमार्क डिसेबिलिटीज़ में। उनका वीडियो आता है सोशल मीडिया पे, वो डांस कर रहे हैं, एंड बट दे हैव गेन्ड एंट्री इनटू द गवर्नमेंट बाय say forging their certificate. So how many complaints have you received so far, and what have you done about them? And second question is about the promotion of ASO. sir, वो बोल रहे हैं कि 2014 से उनका एक भी प्रमोशन नहीं हुआ है असिस्टेंट सेक्शन ऑफिसर्स, और उन्होंने शायद कल सोशल मीडिया पे लिखा भी था ये।
एक्चुअली क्या है कि आप तक पहुंचने के लिए सोशल मीडिया का जरिया आसान है, लेकिन अगर आज आप उनसे एसओ से पूछेंगे तो वो आपको बधाई देंगे, उनका फाइल आगे पहले से ही प्रोसेस हो चुका है। इनफैक्ट दे केम एंड थैंक्ड मी आल्सो। सो दैट इज द सेकंड पार्ट। जो पहला पार्ट है, आई थिंक जैसे मैंने कहा, यू कांट लीव एवरीथिंग टू द गवर्नमेंट, सोसाइटी इवॉल्व्स एज अ होल। अब उसमें वेर एवर देयर इज अ डेफिशिएंसी फाउंड, द ड्यू एक्शन इज बीइंग टेकन, इनफैक्ट मोर देन व्हाट यू वुड एक्सपेक्ट। लेकिन होता क्या है कि यू हैव टू गो बाय द डॉक्यूमेंट सबमिटेड। So if the document submitted mentions that, look here, this is the income, it doesn't mention what is the income from the illegitimate sources which enabled you to dance and whatever you said. तो उसके लिए मीडिया का भी सहयोग चाहिए होगा, समाज का भी सहयोग चाहिए होगा। अगर मेरी तनख्वाह 10 रुपये है तो मैं सर्टिफिकेट देता हूँ कि मेरी तनख्वाह 10 रुपये, श्रीनिवास जी कैनॉट रिफ्यूज़ इट। लेकिन अगर 50 रुपये में कहीं और से कमा करके महंगी घड़ी पहन लेता हूँ तो वो तो सोसाइटी को चेक करना होगा। बट ऑफ कोर्स वी आर नॉट लैगिंग इन कैरिंग आउट इन्वेस्टिगेशंस। व्हाट आई एम ट्राइंग टू से इज दैट द इशू इज लार्जर, टू लार्ज टू बी लेफ्ट ओनली to the Ministry of Personnel. It has a huge social and cultural genesis as well.
Sir, any criminal cases have been lodged against these officers?
You could.
So, just to supplement what Sir has said, we have a fairly robust kind of a system of checking the correctness and veracity of the certificates. Like I was mentioning in the presentation also, that for the backward caste certificate or any other certificate, there are notified, authorities, only they can give the certification. And wherever there is a specific sort of a case which comes to the light, more sort of due diligence is carried out in those cases. I think it will continue to evolve as
he has more in mind the certificates related to the income, the EWS, where the EWS category is there, but the lifestyle is not proportionate. But I don't think you can help much in that. But anyway.
But sir, how many complaints, if you can give us a number, how many complaints have you received and how many complaints have you taken action against?
So I think we can come back to you with the numbers. And like I said, as and when there is a specific case.
No, whenever there is a complaint and it's a verification is done and the action is proceeded. But the action has to be proceeded on the basis of the documentation. As I gave you a simple example, if I submit a certificate that my salary is ₹10, he can't refuse it. But if I live like 1,000 rupees earner, I think some other checks have to come in. So that's why he said certain things go beyond the purview of Secretary DOPT. But nevertheless, you must have read about that notorious case from the academy. Yeah, and now we have also a mechanism in place where even the academy itself also keeps a track.
Okay. When
they are passing out, they informally gather inputs about their being when they go to the districts, for example.
235.
Sir, I'm Damini Nath from the Indian Express. So in August last year, you had written to the UPSC to take back an advertisement for lateral entry recruitment. And at that time, the issue was that social justice and equity, you had pointed out, were the main reasons to make that decision. And the policy was to be reviewed in order to get reservation into it. Could you tell us a little bit about what has happened since then? And will we see that kind of recruitment
No,
again?
we have not suspended it. I think it was started with a very noble intention, and it was possible only because we had someone like Prime Minister Modi there in place. Otherwise, such kind of lateral entries were unknown in these procedures. But before that, I just want to clarify that don't say that lateral entry did not happen before this government came. The most important, the most famous lateral entry in the government of India since 1947 has been that of Dr. Manmohan Singh, who went on from one position to the other position, finally ended up as Prime Minister. And there have been Montek, Walia, and so many other lateral entries. Rather, we try to institutionalize it. We try to make it more objective by routing it through the UPSC. Earlier on, what was happening was that if I know Rachna ji as a good officer, I would appoint her there, maybe some of us, in good faith, of course. I'm not questioning the judgment. But we didn't have an objective mechanism. We, in fact, instituted and introduced an objective mechanism that, look here, even if I find a candidate suitable and the candidate applies, but let the candidate go through the procedure through the UPSC the same manner as happens in case of other appointments. And we also defined, for example, if you are making an appointment for Joint Secretary, the experience, the qualification would be almost same, commensurate with that who's come through direct entry, through civil services or whatever. So we have actually tried to channelize it. That was A. Now B, as far as reservation is concerned, as I said, we also need the cooperation of the media. Instead of getting carried away by the complainant, also sometimes try to look for what the response is by those against whom the complaint is being made. For example, you are looking for a photographer. Because you work with the Indian, you are looking for a good photographer, and you just need one person. Now, if you look for a reserved category, you don't have one. What do you do? So, in one-hour appointments, as a principle across the world, the reservation rule doesn't work. I hope I'm making my point clear. And if you say, no, look here, this year I'll have reserved category, next year I'll have general category, then if you don't find the one that you need for the particular profession, you'll have to wait for years, dog many years. So that was the principle which was tried to put across. But some people still needed to, have a discussion. So we said, okay, we are open to it. But I need your opinion also, because these are more, you would like to make a point?
Sir, only to say that lateral entry was, taken up, and in fact, almost close to 60 odd officials of the level of Joint Secretary and directors were, taken through the lateral entry mode. And even today, there are about 40, 45 of them who are working. So, meeting two very specific requirements. One is to bring in fresh talent into the government for specific, jobs where their expertise lies. So, that is really the underlying philosophy. And as Sir said, to make the whole process more objective, the selection, etc., was done through the UPSC. So the matter is, the fact that you do require for certain very specific competencies, people who have that maybe in the private sector or in working in some organization or an educational institution, etc. So to tap that talent to work in the government for 3 or 5 years or whatever, and then go back to that organization. So I think that with the matter, as Sir said, is under discussion and active consideration, and we'll move forward with greater clarity. Yeah. So because this is for a specific job, typically for a single job there is no reservation guideline which can be sort of applied. So
but nevertheless, when this issue came up, we said, okay, let's give it a thought, and let us also try to learn, understand what options what are being, or alternatives being offered by you and others. We are still open to it. It's not been abandoned actually.
Thank you, sir. 95, yes.
सर दो सवाल हैं। एक
अपना
तो
परिचय दें। और
मैं सर अनिरुद्ध हूँ, दैनिक भास्कर से।
जी
सर दो सवाल हैं। एक तो ये यूपीएससी वाला जो अभी बातचीत चल रही थी जिसमें फर्जी सर्टिफिकेट का था बात, उसमें हम ये जानना चाह रहे हैं कि क्या लास्ट ईयर में पूजा खेड़कर वाले केस के बाद से कोई ऐसा केस आया है जिसको कि सही पाया गया और उस पर कोई कार्रवाई हुई है? एक, और दूसरा कि जो नेशनल रिक्रूटमेंट एजेंसी की बात चल रही है वो कई वर्षों से बात चल रही है, उसमें क्या प्रोग्रेस है अभी और वो कब सामने नज़र आएगी?
जोशी जी आप बोलेंगे डीलिंग विद दिस।
नमस्कार। ये पोस्ट पूजा खेड़कर हम लोगों ने काफ़ी मतलब मैकेनिज्म इन प्लेस रखा है, बोथ फॉर पीडब्ल्यूडी कैंडिडेट एज वेल एज फॉर ओबीसी एंड ईडब्ल्यूएस कैंडिडेट। तो जो पहले पीडब्ल्यूडी कैंडिडेट को लेके मेडिकल्स होता था उसमें जो इश्यूज थे उसको हमने काफ़ी स्ट्रीमलाइन किया है, और इस बार जो सिलेक्शन हुआ है उसको अगर देखेंगे जो अभी चल रहा है हमारा मेडिकल काफ़ी स्ट्रीमलाइन करके किया गया है। पोस्ट पूजा भी हमारे पास काफ़ी कंप्लेंट्स या सोशल मीडिया पे आई थी, जिसको हमने थॉरोली इन्वेस्टिगेट किया, थॉरोली उसको इंक्वायर किया, और मोस्ट ऑफ द केसेस में हमने कुछ मतलब नेगेटिव नहीं पाया। तो ऐसा कोई स्पेसिफिक केस जिसमें हमने डिस्चार्ज किया हो या कोई एक्शन लिया हो एज सच नहीं आया है। एक केस है जिसको अभी हम और इन्वेस्टिगेट कर रहे हैं, पर उसका जो भी होगा फाइनल रिजल्ट उसके हिसाब से एक्शन लिया जाएगा। थैंक यू।
रादर इसमें एक बात ये भी जोड़ दीजिएगा कि इस सरकार ने वो कैटेगरी को एनलार्ज कर दिया जो स्पेशली एबल्ड डिसेबिलिटी, पहले तो 2-4 ही होते थे कि ब्लाइंड है कि बहरा है, अब हमने छोटे छोटे, बिकॉज मेडिकल साइंस हैज आल्सो enabled us to identify many other disabilities which have also been included, like for example that वो आमिर खान पिक्चर क्या था वो ऑटिज्म, वो भी आ गया उसमें। अब ये है कि उसको it should be treated with honesty while furnishing a certificate.
सर
Thank you, sir.
रिक्रूटमेंट एजेंसी वाला भी था एक।
76।
सर वो रिक्रूटमेंट एजेंसी का एक सवाल था।
आपका ही 76। अच्छा एक रहता है।
सो
Recruitment agency.
दी एनआरए जो आपने एनआरए की बात कही, तो एनआरए जैसे प्रेजेंटेशन में बताया गया था कि अक्रॉस रिक्रूटमेंट एजेंसीज जितना हार्मोनाइजेशन और कॉमन स्टैंडर्ड्स वगैरह इवॉल्व करना है वो उस एक्टिविटी को करंटली किया जा रहा है। बेसिकली उससे क्या होगा कि रिक्रूटमेंट कैलेंडर अक्रॉस एजेंसीज बनाने में कोई क्लैश नहीं होगा, कैंडिडेट के लिए भी उसमें सुविधा रहेगी। उसके अलावा जो आगे जाके एक और चीज़ पे हम काम कर रहे हैं वो है वन टाइम रजिस्ट्रेशन फॉर कैंडिडेट। सो कैंडिडेट नीड्स टू रजिस्टर वंस ओनली, एंड विद दैट रजिस्ट्रेशन उनकी जो इन्फॉर्मेशन है दैट विल बी अवेलेबल, एसएससी में भी आएगी, रेलवे रिक्रूटमेंट के लिए भी, जहाँ जहाँ वो अप्लाई करना चाहें, तो टू फैसिलिटेट। सो अभी फिलहाल इस पर जैसे मैंने कंप्यूटर